Now this is the critical aspect. The finance team will be in a position to review the budgets. Sorry, the finance team will be in a position to review the budgets of various departments. They would be in a position to take a look at each of the individual parameters and line items and the amount requested for these. You also would be in a position to look at the financial statements and also would be in a position to make decisions in order to raise capital. So as the head of finance, you currently look at an overall 93% deficit, which means to say that you don't have enough money to actually approve 100% of each of the departments. The only option that you have right now is to go ahead and then raise capital or reject their plans. If you reject the plans, automatically an intimation would go into the department and the department would be in a position to resubmit their plans all over again. At this point in time, from a demo perspective, what I would do is to go ahead and then raise a little bit of capital. I would, look at my references in order to understand when I would be in a position to raise capital from whom and what is the implication of my, decision of raising capital. So once I've raised capital, if let's now take a look if the deficit percentage has come down. If you would earlier remember, the deficit was about 93%, and now that we have raised capital from existing shareholders, you actually see that the deficit percentage has come down. Uh, Let me go ahead and then from a demo perspective give about 1% approval. So the moment I provide my approved percentage, you could actually see that the deficit is not there and I still have certain cash left, and I would be in a position to actually submit the request and approve, so that each of the departments would be in a position to get only a percentage, rather 1% of the overall budget that individuals have requested. I also have a dashboard to look at the performance of my department heads the previous year in terms of the overall utilization percentage. So if you actually take a look and track the performance of the utilization percentage of these individual departments over the period of years, you also would be in a position to understand how was their spending pattern and how much you would need to approve for the current year. So let's assume that you're okay with this particular plan, and then you could go ahead and then approve. Let's make this approval. And so this would mean that budgets would get auto computed based on the percentage that's been set by the head of finance, and the budget approval will be communicated to the individual department heads. And you would now need to wait for the opponents to complete their planning and budgeting process in order to proceed forward. Let's now quickly recap uh, on the entire planning process to quickly understand what we have learned through the last couple of minutes. Planning and budgeting is a yearly activity, which means to say that at the end of every 72 moves, you would be in a position to make a plan. There is a workflow for planning and budgeting activity, and the planning takes place in that specified order. The team plans their strategy and requests for budgets. While you're waiting for the other departments to complete their plan, you would be in a position to look at your previous year's performance and review a certain set of choices, or more importantly, help the others in their planning process so that your planning process is a little bit more smooth. The finance head reviews the budget details and approves the budget. The finance head can raise funds, but the department uh, and more importantly, the ability of the finance head to raise funds is dependent on the previous year's performance. The team's decisions are limited to the budget that they have. In case they are running out of budgets, you would be in a position to raise capital, uh, and you also would be in a position to raise ad hoc budget requests from the finance team. The finance team also has the option for what is called as a budget appropriation, which you could actually understand more when you're looking at the finance decision forms. Budget appropriation is nothing but if a certain set of departments has unutilized budgets, the head of finance could actually request for that budgets to be allocated to other departments who are currently in need. The other important points that you would need to remember is that planning is a time-based activity. In case if you fail to plan within the stipulated time, you would be in a position you would not be in a position to request for the budgets that you want. The system will automatically compute budgets and then would allocate them to you. And the head of finance will also have the option to reject the budgets for you to replan. But the entire replanning process and submission should happen within the stipulated time. Uh, so I think we have come to the end of the planning and budgeting process. One thing that you will have to understand is if you fail to plan, you will plan to fail. So you would need to take uh, serious cognizance, and you also would need to work as a team to have a coordinated strategy and determine your priorities and your strategic blueprint to complete your planning and budgeting process.